Welcome to my college choice presentation. My name is Dylan May. Today's July 5th. Let's go ahead and hop into it. Enrollment strategies in the last best place. How I made my decision to attend the University of Montana and how their admissions office influenced that decision. A little context on the University of Montana as we hop into it. It's located in Missoula, Montana. It's got about 10,000 students on campus. It was founded in 1893. Some well-known academic programs. We got the College of Business, the School of Journalism, and then under the same college are the athletic training program and the education program. And we see a picture of campus, main hall, and Mount Sentinel and the M Trail. Looks like on a November afternoon, looks like a brisk afternoon in Missoula. So choosing the University of Montana, overviewing my positive and negative experiences during the admissions process. What drew me to the University of Montana? Well, there were some personal factors as well as some specific strategies by the university's admissions office. Looking at those personal factors, family history in the region, not necessarily at UM, as I was a first generation college student, but my mom's side of the family, they've been farming in the state of Montana for about 100 years now, and just that idea that I could go to a school that's near my grandparents and my extended family out there was very attractive to me, to get to spend time with them, some more time with them, and also just the proximity to home. It was closer to my extended family, but it was still a day's drive home, 8 hours, nothing outrageous. Far enough that I wasn't going home every weekend, but close enough that I could make that drive if I needed to and wanted to. It was a big deal for me in that regard. The reputation of the school as well. I had a friend my senior year who we were talking about colleges, and I told her that I was thinking about going to Washington State. They have a really good journalism school, and heard, if I decided to study education, they have a good program there as well. And she told me, the University of Montana, I'm thinking about going there, and they have a really good education program. And I've actually heard they have a really good journalism school too. Maybe you should look into going there as well. And it was just that little conversation at the beginning of my senior year that added the University of Montana to my radar. Just that word of mouth communication right there, and put them right on my radar. Looking at some university strategies, we have the application process as well as financial aid. The areas of study, as I already mentioned, they had two of their best programs were in my interests. Then the opportunity to compete in intercollegiate athletics as well as the access just to the outdoors were all things that I was looking for, and I'll get into the application process and financial aid and why it stood out to me that way. They were all things that I was looking for that UM had and that they promoted through their specific avenues of outreach, that were all just positive encouragers for me, and they were a very big deal in that regard. For how I was drawn to the University of Montana, looking at some enrollment strategies at UM. As I mentioned, the outdoor access, the last best place is what Missoula is known as, and UM definitely uses that moniker and just the access to Glacier and Yellowstone and the Bitterroot Valley pictured here in the Bob Marshall Wilderness and the Rattlesnake Wilderness, all this national forest land and great outdoor opportunities in the rivers and the lakes in the area too, to pursue a specific demographic of student. It's not the only demographic, but it's one of the ones that they pursue, and I definitely fell into that. And I loved the opportunity and idea of going to school in the Rockies and having 4 full seasons and getting to float on the river and ski in the wintertime and all of that. Looking here at some family history and proximity, as I already spoke about, you see Missoula there circled right here in all this national forest land. My family is located just outside of Great Falls, so it was just a couple hours drive there. And then we see Seattle, Washington, where I was from, just in that proximity piece. It really fell into that radius of other schools that I was looking at. Melissa Zarek has this great quote: students at 4-year institutions had a wide variety of reasons for choosing their college, with the top responses being, number 1, major or program of interest offered there, going on to good overall academic reputation, proximity to home, quality of academics in the area of interest, price of tuition, and financial aid package and scholarships. And all of those different things were huge hits for me at the University of Montana. The application process, getting to that, I was a good student coming out of high school, had good grades and good test scores, but I didn't want to write another essay. Not if I didn't have to. And so this great quote from Eric Hoover in his 2013 New York Times article, it hits the nail right on the head for me. Though some students relish the opportunity to write about themselves, many view the requirement as a chore, and that was so true for myself. Regarding application fees, Amanda Peleas has this quote: "Sending an additional application was still costly for higher income students because of the application fees." I was in a position where I came from a middle class family, but my parents told me I had to pay for all my application fees. And so when the University of Montana and Montana State gave me an opportunity to waive the application fees when I applied in a specific window, and neither of them had essays on their application, it was a green light for me to apply there. And we got a picture of Monty on the oval in front of Main Hall as well. Institutional reputation, I already spoke to this, but I love this quote from Aaron Anderson saying, "The secret sauce of college admissions," that's what institutional reputation is. "Referrals offer tremendous potential to any college or university." And just talking to students, like this is one of my teammates climbing on the belay course, and their recommendation that they give the university: "Oh, I love it. They have a great outdoor program. I go climbing all the time. It's so much fun." Just that reputation that gets sent around, whether it's recreational or academic, does tremendous or has tremendous returns for the university. Getting into the financial aid aspect, I qualified for a merit-based scholarship that was called the Western Undergraduate Exchange Program. As an in-state student in the state of Washington, I could apply to any of these out-of-state schools and at some participating public universities and pay up to 150% of in-state tuition. And with the rate of in-state tuition at the University of Montana, it was cheaper for me to go to UM than to go in-state to either Washington State or the University of Washington on an academic scholarship. And so, this quote from Jacob Gross really summarizes the point well. "Some evidence suggests that the state aid programs affect the overall enrollment decisions of students," and that was certainly the case for me. Once I got that WUE scholarship, as it's referred to, WUE, WUE, it was pretty much set in place at that point. The one last piece I was waiting on was this opportunity to compete in intercollegiate athletics. And there I am, pictured right in the middle with all the hair. So Jerome Lucido has this quote from our course text, as well as the previous one from Gross. "Special consideration is applied to the applications of prospective student athletes to fill the rosters of athletic programs for reasons that include student-athlete development, school pride and affiliation, competitive stature, alumni engagement, fundraising, and student recruitment." And this is primarily speaking towards selective universities and colleges, but even for me, that last piece, student recruitment, the opportunity to run at the University of Montana was enough for me to really, was a deciding factor to enroll at UM rather than Washington State, where I didn't have that opportunity. The idea of competing was huge for me, and I saw that at UM. And again, there's that same teammate who was just climbing on the belay course there. This is a picture from our meet in Bozeman. And finally, some future implications for coaches. We get to how can a coach in athletics use these strategies, and I return to the same quote from Lucido, just that school pride affiliation and student recruitment aspect. Intercollegiate coaches are uniquely positioned in their ability to help manifest a reputation of a university locally, regionally, and nationally, and just in the students that they recruit and the way that a university is interpreted, walking around with their gear, as my coach Colin is wearing his Montana Grizz cross-country hat and jacket, and Vicky is wearing a similar jacket too, and my two teammates here are wearing singlets with Montana, and they were wearing Montana gear as we all traveled. It was a huge deal just in having the presence, whether it was at a meet in-state in Bozeman, as pictured here, or when we went to California, or nationals, or regionals, or wherever that was. It all helps contribute to the reputation of the school and helps recruit students from in-state and out-of-state, as Lauren was from the same part of Washington as myself. And we look at Rosa here, she was from Iceland, and Maddie was a transfer from Iowa State. Sam and Emily were also from Washington State as myself, and Noah was from Oregon, and Nate was from California. And Micah here, he was from Idaho, and Jordan was from Idaho as well, and everyone else was from Montana. And just this idea that half our team was Montana, the other half was throughout the West and international. And certainly true of my 4 years at Montana in that regard. So that's my presentation, everybody. I hope you enjoyed, and I look forward to your comments and questions in the discussion area.